Okay, yesterday we learned about Yutet Kislev and Hanukkah. The holiday of Yutet Kislev is the day that the first Rebbe of Chabad was released from prison. And he was put into prison because he had a lot of enemies, religious Jews, and they did not appreciate the Hasidic ideas that he was spreading around about how God creates everything all the time and that everyone is infinitely close to God, and at the same time, everyone is infinitely far from God. And as a result, even the most accomplished and holy Jew has to constantly strive to come closer. That's called doing tshuva. And the furthest Jew, on the other hand, he's holy. Every Jew is holy. and more ideas similar like that. The main thing is that to feel God, you feel God, you be happy. And the main thing is the heart. The heart is as important as the mind is, and prayer is of utmost importance, no less than learning Torah. And learning Torah is no less important than prayer also. Anyway, they didn't like these ideas, so they slandered him to the government, to the Russian government. He was put into prison, and he was more or less on death row, even though he had not been officially charged, sentenced. Not like the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe that he was sentenced to death. But anyway, so he miraculously got out of prison on the 53rd, after 53 days of imprisonment, and immediately afterwards he started teaching his Hasidic ideas in a totally different way, much more in depth and in length. But amazingly enough, we see that the Jewish people, they count according to the moon, and when the moon is getting bigger, and especially when it's at full moon, that's a sign of the fullness and the increase of the Jewish people. So it's strange that these holidays, Yutet Kislev, and also a holiday which was thousands of years earlier, in the holiday of Chanukah, they both come at the end of the month. And the Rebbe says even more. It's an interesting thing. The Jewish people, they count according to the month, and they count according to the moon, right? So it should be that the when the moon gets biggest, that should be the main day of the month. And that should be the highest number. And then the number should go down. But what do we see? That we count the days of the month, first day, second day, third. On the 15th day of the month, the moon is the biggest. And then afterwards, it should get lower. The number should go lower. Then it should be 14, maybe 14A, 13A, whatever you want to call it. So you know that it's the second half of the month. The numbers get less because the importance of the days are less and less. There's more and more darkness. And the purpose of the Jews is to make light, to light up the night. So as the days go on and it gets progressively darker and darker, so the numbers should go down. But we see that they don't, that the numbers go up until the last day of the month, which is totally dark, is the 30th day of the month or the 29th day of the month, depending how long the month is. So why does it get bigger? So the Rebbe said that, this obviously must be connected somehow or other to these two holidays of Rosh Hashanah, of Yutet Kislev and of Chanukah, which come at the end of the month. In fact, they're the only ones that do. All the other holidays in Judaism come either in the middle of the month, like Shavuot and Pesach, or they become in the beginning part of the month, like Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Shavuot. Okay, let's explain this. Siba Tashinoi, the big difference between the first half of the month the first half of the month, that from day to day, there's more and more light of the moon. The moon becomes more full. L'chetzi hasheni, to the second half of the month, from day to day, the moon gets less and less, is because the first half of the month the moon gets further and further from the sun. And the further that the moon gets from the sun, so the light becomes more. We see the full part, we see the part of the side of the moon that the sun is always shining on. The other half of the month, when the moon gets less and less light. So what does it mean? It's not really less and less light. We just see less and less of the light, but the fact is the moon is getting closer to the sun. And the more that it gets closer to the sun, so the light that we receive is less and less. The reason for it is because the relationship between the giver, which is the sun, and the receiver, which is the moon, is in a way that when the receiver is close to the giver, namely the moon is close to the sun, ein hamakabel, then the receiver can't give anything to others. Le'ir mitzara bittul shelo, because he has to be surrendered in order to receive. Ukachol shemidrachek, and the further that it gets, the further that the moon gets from the sun, in other words, that the receiver gets from the giver, then it can give to others. Or shemakabel mashpia. You can take an example, like sometimes there's great pianists. People are great pianists or great musicians, but then there's some people who are like super great. They're just, geniuses. So these great pianists, when they go to a concert to hear someone who is super great, a genius, so they're all quiet. They don't make any noise. They don't even cough. They're just all ears. They're just listening. They're in awe of this greatness, and they get inspiration from the greatness. The same thing it is in physics and mathematics. When they go, the lesser physicists or mathematicians, when they go to somebody who's really great, a genius, so they're just quiet. You can't tap them. You tap them on the shoulder, they won't pay any attention to you. They're just totally given over because they're receiving. Shakiruv Dalavana, that when the moon is close to the sun, which is in the second half of the month, it is not only that it should unify, with the moon, with the sun and the moon, but more that a chodesh that they'll be born afterwards, by means that it becomes less and less, and it becomes receiver, because yipoked Moshiach, like it says, that it becomes less and less, the moon becomes poked. Kedei sheyochel lekabel hashpah na'alit yoter, it's in order that it should receive a higher level of flow from the giver. Nifkarata, that's the second word. Nifkarata means to be missing, and nifkarata means to be present. So let's go back to our example. You have the great pianist, and they go to hear the genius pianist. So when they're by this genius pianist, usually they go and they make concerts on their own, and people pay and they clap their hands. But as soon as this genius pianist comes along, so they all go and listen to him, and they're just all in awe, but it improves them. That's the point. The fact that they're negating themselves in order to receive, it makes them better. So same thing with the moon and the sun. We're saying that the moon is giving to us. And then when the moon becomes dark, it means that it's receiving more light from the sun in order for it to be a better light afterwards. Okay, whether we actually, if this pans out according to, astronomy, I don't know. But that's the whole idea. For sure it pans out according to what I said with the piano teacher and this. It becomes better. It receives, it negates itself to the source in order to become better. And so therefore, in holiness, for sure, this is what, because it says, Mailim B'Kodesh, things always get holier and holier. So he says, this itself, La Etzem Shalomaila Me'or Tachama, because what it means, the sun also receives its light from somewhere. That's what we just finished learning in the Chassidut, what's called the level of Keter, the crown. which is above. Why is it that the sun shines? Who said suns have to shine? Why does it have to shine? Because there's combustion and there's this. Who said that combustion makes things shine? Where'd you get this idea from? Why? Well, it's a natural process. Who made these laws of nature? Who said? So on one hand, you can say, what do you mean nobody made it? It just happened. It was spontaneous. It does happen. You can say that. But Judaism says not so. Judaism says that everything has a source and everything is intended, and that the reason that the sun shines, it's got a reason. There's a source of light. And this source of light, that's what's called keter, the crown. The crown of godliness. Shekiruv ledarga, the same thing with life, the same thing with being, the same thing everything. There's a source for everything. Shekiruv ledarga zu mitpatel b'miut or, that in order for the moon to come close to this essence of light, the source of all light, it has to limit its own light. Ki or hugile, because this light is a revelation from the essence, and the essence is concealed. The essence is higher than revelation. And we don't see the essence of God. We don't see the essence of the light of the sun. Raka or, we can only see a little ray of the essence of light. Therefore, therefore, the fact that the moon is getting less every day, more, this indicates that for day to day, means every day the moon is getting closer and closer to the essence, which is above even the light that it's receiving, even for the source of light. It's coming close to a source which is even above the sun itself. Then eventually the moon can become like the sun. That's that there'll be one crown for both of them. It says that in the future, and when God created the world, it says that the moon and the sun were equal. Were equal. And then it said that the moon complained and God made it less. Okay, so what do you mean? There's a man in the moon. The moon could actually talk. What is it talking about? What it means is that in creation, there's already the source of dissonance. The source of dissonance. And this source of dissonance is supposed to not be active. It's not supposed to be active. It's there. But for whatever reason it became dominant when the moon, and says the moon complained. The moon wanted to be, he wanted to have more light. So God said, you want to have more, I'll make you less. It's not fair that there should be one, the lights should be equal. God said, okay, you're right, they won't be equal. You'll be less. Okay, what does this mean to us? What does this mean to us? Haklal she'etzem u behelim. The fact that the essence is concealed. Let's take it in our case, right? God enlivens the world. We know, we've heard that there's going to heaven. You go to heaven, after a person dies, he goes to heaven. It's tremendous pleasure. There were people that are there, they came back, it's written in books, and in the Talmud is written, going to heaven, tremendous pleasure. In Kabbalah books, even more, tremendous pleasure. Says this pleasure really comes from God. After a person dies, so he gets this pleasure. Oh, does he get God? The pleasure is a little ray of godliness. No, why don't we get all of God? What's wrong? In this world, God is totally concealed. After a person dies, he goes to heaven, he gets a little tiny ray of godliness. But the essence of godliness, this essence pleasure, is too much. We can't take it. So therefore, God's doing a favor for us that he hides it. But nevertheless, the fact is this essential good of God is concealed. Why is it concealed? The essence of God is concealed, but the light is revealed. This is reflected in the fact that the sun and the moon receives from the sun, but the sun also receives. The sun also has to receive. Where does the whole principle of light come from? It receives from that. That the fact that the concealment and revelation, this is only relevant to others. That because, in our case, let's say the sun cannot receive from the essence of God, only a ray of godliness, the moon for sure. Therefore, therefore, this ray of light that it receives is called light. On the other hand, the essence of God, which is the source of light, because we can't see it, it's called dark. The essence is darkness. I'll give you a simple example. Let's have a simple example. Somebody goes into university and he wants to learn physics. Goes to university. By mistake, he goes into a postgraduate physics class for only the greatest physicists, right? By mistake, he goes in. Somebody switched the sign on the door, and he went and he thought it was basic physics. He goes in, and they're talking, and he just doesn't understand anything. Does not understand one word of what's going on. Why doesn't he understand? Because they're not revealing anything? No, it's too high for him. So he calls it darkness. I went in, there was the worst class I've ever heard. These people are talking total gibberish. I don't understand anything. By him, it's called darkness. But really what's going on, by them, it's the ultimate light. The same thing. What we can't receive, we call darkness. So therefore, that the moon becomes dark, it's not the meaning that it becomes dark because there is no light. The light is too much. It can't be given over. But in regard to the receiver, darkness is what it can't receive, and light is what it can receive. But in regard to the essence, it's exactly the opposite. That the ray that comes out of the darkness, that comes out of the light, that's darkness. In regard to the essence, which is light. Right? Let's say a person is a multi-billionaire, right? He gives some poor person on the street, he gives him here $1,000. The person on the street thinks this is amazing. I'm rich. The person, the multi-billionaire, $1,000 is like nothing. What did he give away? He gave away nothing, right? In his estimation, a person that only has $10,000, $1,000 in his pocket, that's all he's got to his life. $1,000, he's a poor person. To this poor person on the street, he's the richest guy in the world. He's got $1,000. He never had so much money in his life. It's the same thing with godliness. Any type of light of godliness that we can receive, that by God is considered to be poor. But by us, it's considered to be riches. When the moon gets dark, it means that the moon is connecting to this source of light above what we can accept. When we say moving, so now we can understand that the light becomes less and less. Why? In order that we can come closer to the essence. This is only in the time when we are a separate existence on our own. That we're not able to receive from the essence. So therefore, to us, it seems dark. But when a person gets united with the essence of God, which that's only going to happen in the future, that's the idea of the raising of the dead. That the creation becomes united with the creator. The receiver becomes united with the giver, with God. Then the world won't be anymore a receiver and an acceptor, but both of them will be equal. It says, that's what it says, the light of the moon will be like the light of the sun. Then the essence of God will be revealed in this world. This is impossible to understand, but nevertheless, that's what it's going to be. So now we can see that the second half of the month, in some ways, is even higher than the first half. The first half of the month, we're just getting revealed light. The second half of the month, we're coming close to the source of light. According to this, we can say or that the light, which has become less and less in the second half of the month, this is only that is becoming less and less in level of light, the level of what can be accepted to us. God has decided not to give away $1,000 bills, for instance, to the poor, like the rich person decides not to give away $1,000 bills to the poor people, but what? To that everybody in the world, he is going to be his equal partner. Everyone in the world is going to have $100 billion. $100 billion. I say everybody in the world. I mean, there's how many people in the world? Let's say 10 billion people. So it means that how can everybody's only going to get like $10? Isn't it right? It says, no. The fact of the matter is, that's a human being, but by the source of God, there's no limit. So if God makes everybody an equal partner, then that means everybody gets lights which make going to heaven like small change. It's like nothing, but it's like a peanut. Because Shakiruv ha'edla etzem, because if we can come close to the essence of God, which is above this light. And you have to remember, the essence of God is everywhere. The essence of God is not hiding behind some cloud or something. There's only one God, and there's nothing except for God. But what God conceals his oneness from us. And what does he reveal? He reveals this little ray of godliness, of a low miut bagilui. says, therefore, there'll be a limit. God will limit his ray of light, but it won't limit his essence. The essence of God becomes more and more revealed. And the more that God's essence becomes revealed, the less and less there is light, rays of God. And therefore, it continues, the last part of the month increases in the date increases. The last part of the month, instead of going up to 15 and then going down because the light of this moon goes down, the numbers go up. The day after the moon is filled, when the moon starts getting less, that's called the 16th day of the month. The day after that, when there's even less moon, it's called the 17th. And then the 18th. Why do the numbers go up? Because the Yamei HaChodesh, that the numbers of the days of the month, the 16th, the 17th, the 18th, be mimes of the Jewish people, because there is not revelation of the light, there's revelation of the essence of God, which is above any limitations. And this is especially the idea when it says in the month of Kislev. In the month of Kislev, this is the third month of the year. The month of the Kislev, this is the third month of the winter months. If you count from Tishrei, from Rosh Hashanah, since that this is the third month in the months of the winter indicates that we have to work from below to above, that we're not getting light from above. In the months of the summer, which come from Matan Torah, when God took us out of Egypt and he gave us the Torah, the third month is the month when we got the Torah. Yarcha Talitai, it says it's the third month. This is like the third month, that's the third summer month, is when we got the Torah. The third winter month, this is when we got the inside of the Torah, Chasidut, Yutet Kislev. That this is the Rosh Hashanah and the Matan Torah of Chasidut. So therefore, what are we saying now? We said, when there's more light, it shines, so it's a sign that there's a lower level of God being revealed. When there is no light, it's a sign that the essence of God is being revealed. Therefore, in the winter months where there's less light, and they know that Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, this is the day that God got married to the Jewish people, Yom Chatunuta. God got married with the Jews. I share that the beginning was when God, he was the giver, God is the bride, the groom, and the Jewish people, they're the bride. But the ultimate purpose is that God and the Jewish people should be one mamish. The Knesset Yisrael, that the Jewish people should not have to receive any more from God. Why not? Because God will be everywhere. God and the Jewish people are one. It says that the whole difference is that the holy temple, the third temple, will not shine godliness to the world. The holy temple will cause, the third temple, that the world itself will shine. That's why it says there's I think to put the lights of Hanukkah outside to show that the world itself will shine. This also ends at the third month. This is the joining third month as Kislev. This joins the upper one with the lower, that's two. And there's something that joins them together, that's number three. Three shows them this unity. According to this, so we can see that the completion and the wholeness of the moon on the 14th day, on the 15th day of the month, of this third month of Kislev, of the third month, which is Sivan, the day when the revealed Torah was given, the day of God's wedding with the Jewish people. When Kislev comes along, there is made the ultimate unity of God and the Jewish people, that the light of the moon will be like the light of the sun. That the moon, the Jewish people, will not have to receive light from God anymore. This is of course, eventually, this is essentially talking about the raising of the dead, but it says that there won't be any more questions in the Torah. That you'll read the Torah and everything will be understood. Kavan, since the Nasis Va'atzmo, because the Jewish people, which is symbolized by the moon, will become like the sun. That's the idea, that the Jewish people and the moon and the sun will become totally one. How will this possibly be in the month of Kislev, especially more than in the month of Sivan? How? We'll talk about this, God willing, tomorrow. Let's learn now the Yom Yom for today. Okay, this is a correction in the Siddur in one of the Maimonim. Okay, just the Rebbe made a connection. A correction in one of the books is not for us today. God bless everybody. Hope to see you at 3:00 for the Chumash class. Today we're going to talk about Yaakov fighting with the angel. Hope to see you all.